Then we move on to subpart 3, UAS personal licensing. This is the easiest one to look at. Why? It doesn't exist anymore because we now have part 71. Okay, boom shaka, you passed. Okay, lesson learned. Cool. Subpart 4 is then our UAS operating certificate. Alright, so a UASOC. Right, the UASOC. Guys, what does the UASOC do for you? What does it do? It allows you to fly legally and earn money. That's what it does. In other words, if you're a company and you're using drones in your company, but you don't have a UASOC, you are an illegal company. You have to, whether you are making money from the drones or whether you are saving money using the drones, you have to have a UASOC to give you permission for drones to be in your business.
So you mean even if I'm taking videos and documentaries?
Yeah, it's a big issue because a lot of people on social media are saying, but drones can be used for social media. Like, what if I take a video and I put it on YouTube, and then I make money from that via ads? It's like, technically it wasn't my fault that I got money from it, but no, it is an issue. So that even with those things, and that's one of the biggest things, that social media and also agriculture, because people think all I want to do is just crop dust my own crops, and now I have to spend 100,000 Rand to get a UASOC to do that. So there is a lot of talk about it, and luckily, because there's a lot of talk about it, they are looking to change that at some point down the line. You want to know something about our law? We were the first country in the world to have drone law, and we are now one of the furthest behind companies when it comes to drone utilization, because our law is too stringent on us. Our law is too much like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, rather than let's see if we can use you for this, and let's see if we can use you for this. I'm kind of sad about that, but it is what it is, okay?
It's unbelievable.
Man, it's unbelievable. We went from being the first in the whole world, before America, and now we are one of the last. Like, that just breaks my heart a little bit. But anyways, I'm not looking to be in South Africa much longer, so yeah, y'all can deal with this bullshit. Okay, let's talk about general requirements. No person shall operate a UAS in terms of this part unless such person is the holder of, number 1, you need to have a UASOC. I don't know how many times I have to tell you that, okay? If you're a drone company, you have a UASOC. And number 2, if you have a commercial UASOC, you also need to get what we call an ASL. This is your Air Service License. Okay, now we've got to go into a little bit of detail here. So, you get different types of UASOCs. Why do you get different types? Because different businesses will use drones for different things. Right? We talked about the mine, who has the drone just to survey the mine for security, to prevent loss. Okay, but what if you want to use your drone to create gain, rather than just to prevent loss? That's where you get your commercial ROC, your commercial UASOC. What happens? Well, at the mine, you just need to show the CAA that you can fly there once. Because then you're just going to fly in the same place, and 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 the same place. But if you've got a commercial UASOC, you're going to jump around the country. There's a wedding in Hartbeespoort, then there's a wedding at Port Elizabeth, then there's a wedding here in Gauteng, okay? You're jumping around, so you need to get yourself permission to use South African skies. And that essentially is what the ASL does, the Air Service License, okay? Now the issue that we were having, the reason people were waiting 3 years before they can actually fly their drones, is because the ASL used to be on behalf of your Department of Transport. Luckily, very recently, the CAA has actually taken that responsibility on for themselves. So you no longer sit around waiting for the government to do their job when you know they're not going to do their job. You now have the CAA who actually does their job because they are dependent, or we are dependent on them for safety matters. So of course they're going to make sure that stuff gets done. Okay, and that's how that works. Boom shaka. Boom shaka. Okay, application. So this is just saying if you want to get a UASOC, what do you need to do? Well, it's a 5-step process, and I do believe that Mr. Sam Twala is going to walk you through this at some point in this course. I actually think he's going to take over the lesson and give you guys a rundown of UASOCs. But ultimately, those 5 steps can be summed up into this. Number 1, you acquire a drone. Number 2, you register the drone. Number 3, you get the drone on UASLA. Number 4, you then need to set up your whole business parameters. And number 5, you need to show the CAA that your business works as a whole. Okay. And then they will give you your UASOC. There's a lot more to it than just that. Okay. And those are not, in fact, the 5 parameters. Those are just a list of 5 things that I've mentioned so that you guys get a general understanding of this. Okay, the 5-step process is one that is so complicated that even I am not fully aware what happens in it. Okay, and that's me who has even undergone training regarding that stuff. Okay, it's that complicated. It gets so complicated, guys. But ultimately, all you need to do if you get lost, boom shaka, phone the CAA. Okay, hey CAA, I want to know what I need to do next. And they help you out. Okay. Well, I mean, provided you get the right people. Sometimes there is 1 or 2 people at CAA who just doesn't give a shit, and then you have to deal with nonsense like that. Okay, but normally they're very helpful. Then we go on to our validity periods. Guys, a UASLA and a UASOC will only be valid ever for 12 months at a time. 1 year. That means every single year you have to renew your UASLA and your UASOC. But why do they do that?
So they can make money from it.
That's right. Okay. If you're a little bit more of a realist, then you have to identify that people want cash. Okay? But if you're an optimist, you would say it's that they can spend more time doing auditing and making sure that nothing goes wrong within your system. Okay. So you choose if you want to be a realist or an optimist. All right. So the duties of a holder of an ROC or a UASOC is this. Number 1, in fact, I'm not going to read them. Okay, you guys can go and read them, but the most important ones are this. Number 1, background checks and security protocol. You need to make sure that your drones are locked away in secure places without access to people who might take them and use them for foul deeds, let's call it, okay? Number 2, whoever you do give permission to use your drones, you need to do background checks on them, including police clearance, okay? Police clearance is just where you go to the police and you say, hey guys, take my fingerprints. And if you have a criminal record within this 5 years, the past 5 years, then a drone company is not going to hire you. Okay? And by the way, guys, criminal record checks, after 5 years, whatever you've done is fallen away. Okay? So if you did a criminal crime and then 5 years has passed and you go and you do the check, it's not going to count from that past 5 years thing. Okay? Cool. I'm not speaking from experience, but okay. But I trained someone, I don't know if I can tell the story, but I trained someone who used to be a sub-kingpin to the whole South African cocaine cartel. And the way he got out of things was by, in fact, I can't speak too much, but essentially he waited that 5 years. So he handed someone in to the cops and he ran away and he came back 5 years and then his slate was clean. Okay. And then duties of the holder of a UASOC. Oh, there's more. So it's basically you also need to make sure that you're hiring people with the right prerequisites. If you hire someone to fly your fixed wing and they're not trained in fixed wing, that's illegal. If you hire someone who you think is 18 and it turns out that they're 17, that's illegal. Okay, it's pretty obvious things, isn't it? things that you know as a business person, you're not going to make mistakes like that. Okay, operations manual. A UASOC holder shall develop for approval by the director an operations manual containing all the information required to demonstrate how such operator will ensure compliance with the blah 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 blah. What this is basically saying is you need to make an op spec. Well, you don't need to make an op spec per se. This is actually talking about operations manual, but essentially your op spec is kind of what breaks down your operations manual. An op spec, guys, stands for an operations specifications. That's right. And it gives you the details of how you operate. A UASOC might as well just be a big piece of paper that says, well done, you are now a drone company. That's literally what the UASOC is. The op spec that goes along with the UASOC is the thing that actually says you are allowed to use your drone in this capacity, this capacity. You can break this regulation as long as you have this in place. You can overrule this as long as you do this. Okay, that's how an op spec works. Okay? Your operations manual is basically, in order for the CAA to help you create an op spec, you have to first create an operations manual, where you're basically going to give a whole business detail of how you're going to use your drones for your business. Okay? What drone you're going to use, how high you plan to fly them, how long you plan to fly them, how many times a day do you plan to fly them. Your full operations manual. If you want to know more, you're going to check out your CATs, parts of the operation manuals. Okay? It's the same as your cars, 101.04.5, just in your CATs. Okay? And you can check these out. These will explain all of this in further detail if you want to do that extra research. Okay. Right, documentation and records. Guys, again, a lot of very fancy, big words and fancy information, but just one thing you need to know is 5 years. Okay? No matter what document it is, no matter what if you think it's worthwhile or important or not, keep it for 5 years. Okay? For us as pilots, the regulations say keep your logbook for 5 years. Why do they say that? Because, and this is after your expiry date of your license. Okay, so if you decide you don't want to be a pilot anymore, your license expires. From that point, you keep your logbook for another 5 years onwards. Because the CAA can come to you at 4.5 years and say, you flew a drone on this day. Show me what you've done, okay? And then you bring out your logbook and it's like, okay, cool, I did fly this thing, I have proof. But if they're doing that, why do you think the CAA is going to do that? Why would the CAA backtrack for so far back? An investigation. So, you know what I just said? I said keep every document, whether you think it's important or not. Why? Okay, let's speak from experience here. So the CAA, the old school, right? The old school obviously went under investigation. You want to know why I saved my ass? Because I kept every single form that I ever filled in, ever. Okay? Every flight debrief, every FOM, field operations manual, every risk assessment that I did, every on-site, every pre-site, I kept it. Okay? And what happens? The CAA comes to you and they say, we saw that you filled a logbook in. Okay, cool, let's see that. And then they say, what else do you have regarding that day? If you were just following the regulations, you're going to say, I have nothing else because I have my logbook. Okay? But then that means they can include you in the investigation. But now you're able to come and say, oh, no, but I did my risk assessment, and here's my pre-flight assessment, and here's the on-site, and here's the field operations. Do you think the CAA is going to investigate you? They're not going to investigate you because they see that you did the safety work before you flew. So they can see that you're diligent and they rule you out of the investigation. Okay. So yes, the regulation says keep your logbook, but the actual diligent thing to do, the safe thing to do for yourself, is to get yourself a nice big flip file and just put everything. Okay. I literally have this bag. This bag is filled with nothing but aviation documents. And it's not even all of them. It's just the most important ones for now. Okay, so that's the idea there, is no matter what document it is, keep it for 5 years. Okay, cool. Safety management is something that you guys can just go ahead and read. It's not too much you need to know about here. Reason being is because when it comes to safety, we'll look at that in detail at the field when it comes to things like risk assessments and emergency response planning. Okay, which if you guys are worrying about what that is now, don't worry, it's going to come up. Okay, in this week it's going to come up already. And then you've got security. The holder of a UASOC issued under this part must, as we spoke about. Okay, you need to make sure your drones are locked away securely. You need to, if you can, make sure that there's an alarm system wherever your drones are locked away. You need to make sure that whoever has access to your drones is not going to steal them. You need to X, Y, and Z. Okay, all the common practice, right? In other words, you need to know that whoever you hire is trustworthy. And if they're not trustworthy, that's your wrongdoing, not the other person's. Okay. Cool. The biggest thing, guys, is this one here. Conduct criminal record checks. We spoke about it. Police clearances. Okay, they take your fingerprints, right? And this needs to be done every 24 months. Every 2 years, a company is required to send their employees to go and get another police clearance. All right, every 2 years. And that also is an exam answer. Hey. Cool. Yeah, that's fine. Authorized audits. So you guys can see how air law is one of my least favorite things to teach because there's not much teaching. It's a lot more go and read this, go and read this. Okay. However, starting tomorrow we'll get down and dirty with all the teaching and then we're going to have some fun. Okay, so Register of Operating Certificates. The director shall maintain a register. The director stands for who? Who's the director?
Director CAA.
That's right. Okay. You guys can just think CAA, but essentially it is someone who is a VIP in the CAA. Okay, it's someone who has like final word, final say on certain elements. In this case, in the elements of drones within the CAA. But when you guys read the director, you can just think CAA. Okay, so the CAA shall maintain a register of all certificates issued in terms of this subpart. So if you get yourself a UASOC, of course the CAA is going to say, this is a company. You think they're just going to be like, cool, that company's done, move on to the next one? No, they keep track of every single company, just as they keep track of every single pilot that exists within South Africa. Within, as the CAA would put it, the Republic. Okay. Cool. Transferability, guys. A UASOC can't be transferred. What does that mean? It means you can't sell your UASOC. It means you can't trade your UASOC. It means you can't give your UASOC away. But what can you do? You can sell your company. Okay, you can't sell the UASOC that your company has, but you can sell your whole company. Okay? Yeah. Or you can just wait for your UASOC to expire and then not renew it again. Those are your options. Okay. And insurance, another one. These two, by the way, are exam question and answers as well. Okay. Insurance, a UASOC holder shall, yes?
That's a good question. If you do decide to sell your company, would one of the documents required in order for that to go through be your UASOC? Or can you sell your company without it?
Oh, I see. No, yeah, your UASOC belongs to the company. Yeah. So, but the issue actually is that the UASOC actually belongs to a person that owns the company. So yes, it does belong to the company, but actually it belongs to the accountable manager. That is the title that it belongs to. So it's a little bit of a tough one because technically the accountable manager has to agree to still be the accountable manager for that UASOC. But you can get away with selling your company. For example, if you change, you can't change ownership, but you can essentially change ownership. Let's say the CEO, aka the accountable manager, decides that he doesn't want to run the company anymore. So he hires someone to run the company, and then he F's off and he's having a good time. That person can then decide that they want to step down or get away and change leadership. that process can happen. In other words, they can sell the company to another company, provided the company will still maintain the regularity of how it's operating. So the only time that it won't work is if you either don't want your company to exist anymore, or if you want your company to work in a different capacity. Then you have to wait for your UAS to expire. Oh, you also can give it to CAA. If you know you're done with it and you don't want to do it anymore, you can hand it over to the CAA, and then they'll take it from there. Okay, cool. Insurance, guys. All drones, just like all commercial cars, have to have insurance. And for drones, you need third-party liability insurance. Okay, those words, you might think I'm just pulling them out of my ass, but actually those are important words for all of your exams. Literally every single one of your exams can bring that up. Okay, third-party liability insurance. All drones on a UASOC, every single one of them that is being operated needs to have third-party liability insurance. And what will you get? You'll get a piece of paper that says this drone is insured. And that again is one of the piece of papers that I will show you at the field. Okay.